So namaste, welcome everyone, welcome to Yen. I'm Crystal and I'm very happy to be here guiding you through tonight. So most of you know that with Yen we often work on a certain meridian of the body and different organs. Tonight I'm giving you a tune-up. It's late in the summer, it's in COVID, and I think that would be most appropriate. So I'll let you know what meridians we're working on when we come there. The first thing we always do in my practice is work on opening this deep fascia line that it's the one on the bottom of your feet that can actually cause plantar fasciitis. So let's get ready for that. I'm going to give you 3 options of how you can be for this. One is to curl all 10 toes under. Maybe spread them out a little bit, and then you'll be sitting here. You might have a cushion between your heels and your seat. Second option is to do this pose, but to come forward. And here, maybe you're resting your forehead, maybe you're laying over top of a bolster. And the third option is to do a toe squat. So the heels are lifted, the toes are curled under, and you're coming into a squat, holding, supporting your body with your fingers in whatever way possible. So make your way into your pose. And you'll see me throughout practice tonight using my phone for timing, because sometimes 10 seconds feels like 3 minutes, and sometimes 3 minutes feels like 10 seconds. So we'll go ahead and begin. We will be doing this pose for a little over 2 minutes. For those of you who are upright, like I am, you could find some gentle movement for your shoulders, or you could choose to remain still. Wherever you are, begin to let the body settle in and rest. Release your jaws. This isn't usually the most comfortable pose for most of us because we often find that this thick band of fascia, it's layers and layers of our fascia all banded together, can be very tight, and we might not know it until we find ourselves in this position. So just let the body breathe. If at any point you'd like to take a cleansing breath, inhale through the nose as deeply as you can, and let it go through the mouth. And you can choose how to let that go. It might be slow, like letting air out of a balloon, or it might be a sigh, or if you need a big release, it might even be a growl. So let it go completely. And just begin to tune into your practice, welcoming yourself. Just feeling that flow of breath move in and move out. And of course, I told you we'll be staying for a little over 2 minutes, but it's your practice. You need to listen to your body. And if you need to come out or decide you want to come out sooner, please do so. You can always come back in, or you can stay out. And there's a distinction between pain and discomfort. Pain is sharp. Never ever stay in pain. Discomfort, well, you decide how long you stay in that. Maybe it's 2.5 minutes. So if you do practice this at home on your own, 3 minutes would be the maximum time. After that, it doesn't really do any good. And so no need to do it longer than that. And maybe you're finding as we stay in this pose that it's feeling a little better, because just like muscles, the longer we stay in the stretch, they begin to lengthen. And that same thing happens with the fascia. So a few more rounds of breath here. Keeping the jaws relaxed. They like to tighten up, which isn't helpful. Keep them relaxed so we can keep de-stressing around the neck, shoulders. Just a few more breaths here. Everybody ready to come out? I am. Let's come on out And you might come right to hands and knees and just begin to tap the tops of your feet, getting a little stimulation there and a little bit of release. Maybe take another cleansing breath and just let that exhale out, all finished. And then make your way into a seat. It's not going to be a seat that we're going to stay in and meditate, but we're going to work a little bit more on releasing the feet. So just bring one of your feet up where you can comfortably reach it, however it's comfortable, maybe setting it on a prop or something. And then make knuckles with one of your hands. So you find some nice knuckles and just begin to tap up and down the center line, kind of right where that thick band of fascia is. So kind of from the ball of the foot all the way to the top of the heel. And there's a marma point, an energy point in the middle of the sole of the foot. So you might take a knuckle and kind of circle in and press in there, getting some energetic effects. And then take both of your thumbs and find the roots of your toes. Begin to just press into the roots of the toes and loosen up. With the humidity that we've been experiencing lately in the Midwest, it can cause our joints to become inflamed or uncomfortable, even down by the toes. And then take those thumbs and go all the way up and down the center of the sole of your foot. Keeping the jaws relaxed. And then we'll move the toes. You might cup your fingers over the toes, or you might interlace the fingers between the toes. And just move them back and forth, getting a little bit deeper into the joints of the toes. We could spend 2 hours just working on the feet. There's so many points of energy, acupressure points, marma points. But that'll be enough for this one, for this time. So bring the other foot where it's easily accessible to you. Make your knuckles and begin to find some tapping up and down. Remembering that there's that marma point in the center, and you might just have your knuckle there and begin to just put a little pressure there, finding some energetic release. And then the thumbs come in, find the roots of the toes. See if you can massage into each of the roots of the toes, maybe even feel the ends of the bones there. Getting into that fascia for some release. And then up and down the middle of the foot, from the roots of the toes all the way to the top of the heel, pressing in however it feels best for you. You might find some sore spots. Often that happens when we're really tuning into our bodies and paying attention. And then maybe interlace your fingers between the toes, or just take your fingers over the toes, move them back and forth. I'm hearing some cracking with my toes, so you might listen and observe. And that should be good for this foot. So now I'll invite you into a comfortable and supported seat. Those of you who can sit in saddle pose, I'm going to encourage you to do that. If saddle is not comfortable, then sit in a different way. So with saddle, I'm going to put a little bit of cushioning right underneath my seat. My knees are together, your knees might be farther apart. I'm sitting right between my heels. This helps to open up the front of the shins and get a little bit of stretching around the knees. But for some of you, you might have knee pain or it's uncomfortable. So please don't do this. Sit how you're comfortable. Roll into your seat. We're going to be here for a little while. Make sure your body is comfortable. Tip the chin just slightly in as you lift the crown. Move the head back and then relax. We're going to come into a mudra tonight for the joints. It's called Sandhi Mudra. In Sanskrit, Sandhi means the meeting place. And so in our bodies, it's where the bones meet. It's our joints. So on your right hand, bring the tip of the ring finger to the tip of the thumb. and turn the palm up. On your left hand, it's the tip of the middle finger to the tip of the thumb, and the palm rests up. And again, just make sure you're really comfortable here. Move your jaws around a little bit. Again, inviting any stress in the neck and the jaws to leave. Take a breath in through the nose and a breath out the mouth. Let it go completely. And close down your eyes or find a gazeless gaze. And just invite yourself into your practice. Invite your body to be soft. You'll be held by gravity and your bones. You're in a safe place, so just begin to relax. Just begin to notice how your body is breathing, connecting with the in-breath, bringing in nourishment. We bring in oxygen, we bring in prana, we bring in nourishment for our whole body, all of the cells, to help guide it and keep us healthy. On our exhale, we release what the body has filtered and has said, this is no longer needed. So really connect with that nourishment, the in-breath, the out-breath. And just be aware of the state of your mind. Sometimes the mind likes to act like a really tired 2-year-old and bring in all sorts of ideas and thoughts that aren't really relevant. So invite your mind to settle down by just inviting it to focus on the breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Really enjoying that sensation of just bringing in nourishment. You might already notice the breath leaning toward the qualities of being consistent, slow, quiet, and even. The mind will follow the pattern of the breath, so invite those qualities in with as little effort as possible. We're going to continue to hold Sandhi Mudra and come into another mudra. It's called Brahma Mudra. And with Brahma Mudra, we usually chant the sounds, the different 4 sounds of Om. I'm going to invite you tonight to just chant a short Om, or maybe just to hum, to create those vibrations. So I'll be guiding you through. We'll be moving the head, so we're getting a stretch in the neck. Every time we come back to center is the time that you chant Om or hum. So just keep your eyes closed and follow my lead. Inhale right. And to center. Inhale left. To center. Inhale, lift the chin, open the throat. To center. Inhale, chin to chest. And back to center. Inhale right. Inhale left. Inhale, lift. Inhale to chest. And we'll stay here. Really bring your awareness to the heart center, the throat, maybe all the way up to the space between the eyebrows and the midbrain. This practice gives us some opening in the muscles around the neck, but it also brings some movement of prana. When we chant, we have those vibrations. And then in yin, we call that prana chi. It's the same thing, just a different name, prana chi. Notice what you feel. Notice the state of your mind. Maybe there's been some shifts already. If you'd like to bring an intention in for your practice, I'll invite you to do that now. Maybe something of self-healing for yourself. Let's take an inhale through the nose and let it out through the mouth. Slow, fast, or with a sigh or a growl. Let it go. When you're ready, blink your eyes several times, getting a little moisture to the eyes. Keep them open. And go ahead and release your Sandhi Mudra, wiggling into the joints of the fingers. And also go ahead and release your seat. Let your legs come out long, and let's just find either some tapping or rubbing in a loop up and down the legs, stimulating the lymph nodes, again, helping chi and prana to move in the body. And then the same thing with the arms. So we'll start at the end of one side of the hand, move up in a loop, all the way down, stimulating, really keeping our immune system tuned up. 3 times each arm, that's all you need. Good thing to do in the morning, just stimulating those lymph nodes. And then take 3 of your fingers underneath the armpit, give it a good squeeze, getting into those lymph nodes. Make sure you do both sides. And a little tapping right on the breastbone, right over the thymus. Good. We're ready for our first yin pose. So we're going to begin today with a forward fold. I'm going to invite you into butterfly pose. So you might take the edge of a blanket and come to sit on the very edge of a blanket. With butterfly, the soles of our feet come together and listen to your body. Some of us can bring our feet way in. You might choose to be more in a star pose with the feet out. You might choose to have some support under your knees. We are going to take this pose forward. So I really encourage you to use something to rest your forehead on. If you can come all the way down to your mat and rest your forehead on your mat. Otherwise, you might have a blanket, a bolster, a couch cushion. We're going to be in this pose for several minutes, so it's really not healthy to just have these neck muscles doing all this work while we're in the pose. So please support your head. And with all the poses, I will be demoing and going into it with you initially, but then I'll be coming out so I can time this in the pose. So don't be worried if you look up, if you're practicing at home and you see that I'm not doing the pose. I will give you enough cues to let you know when to come out. So when you're ready, inhale, and on your exhale, bring your body forward. Come forward with a straight back, heart forward, as far as you can. Wherever your body lands, tuck the chin, rest your forehead. Just honoring wherever your body is. And with all of our yin poses, we try to let as much muscle engagement release as possible. We want the stress to go deep into the fascia, into the connective tissue. So invite that in, really release. Let the body soften, let go of your muscles that might have engaged while you were getting into the pose. Relax the jaws. And this whole practice of yin can be very meditative. Yin means deep, dark, quiet. So invite yourself into that peaceful place within yourself. If you need something to help you, to help the mind stay focused, you might listen to your breath. You might hear the sound of Om. Or maybe you envision a beautiful place where you feel peaceful and comfortable. Whatever it is, relax. I will let you know when we're about halfway through the pose. So just let go and be as you are, be where you are. This butterfly pose is working on the energy meridians. It aligns to the heart, the lungs, and both the small and large intestines. So we're getting a lot of good stimulation here. And all you need to do is just rest and be in the shape. The mind begins to wander. Call it back with your focus, using whatever tool works best for you. It's really a gift to yourself to be able to stay in the present moment. And that's how this practice works a little better as well. We're right around the halfway point of this pose. So if you're feeling in your body that you might feel some opening, maybe that fascia has given you some nice stretching, this will be an opportunity for you to fold a little deeper if you so choose. You can stay just as you are and the pose will continue to work. If you choose to move, then come right back into stillness. Remembering to let go of any muscles that engage, relaxing everything, the fingers, the toes, and settling back in. Just a reminder to stay in your practice. Continue to go deep with your body, quiet as best you can with the mind. Please continue to stay in your pose. I'm just going to invite you to bring your awareness to either the heart or the lungs. And begin to deepen your breath just slightly, Breathing deeper in through the nose and out through the nose. Choosing where you most need it. Maybe you need a little more to help strengthen the lungs. Maybe you need a little more in that heart center where there's love, compassion, empathy, both giving and receiving. Let your awareness go there and let your breath be deeper and longer. You're getting some extra stimulation in that whole meridian and those organs that you're breathing into. Just a few more rounds of breath like this. You can let go of the breath. And we'll prepare to come out of the pose. So whenever we lift up from forward fold, take an inhale. Inhale all the way up until you come up. You might want to take your hands underneath your knees and help lift the knees. If you're sitting on something, you might come off from that. And then a counter pose for this, a counter motion, is to take your feet as wide as the mat and find some gentle windshield wipers. If it's more comfortable, you could do this on your back. You could also find other movement that feels good to you. If you feel like rubbing or tapping again, or any other stretching. We'll take just a little bit of time before we go into our next yin pose. I always feel like it's important to find some dynamic movement between the poses, just to get that chi, that prana moving again. So finish up what you're doing. Make sure you feel sort of complete and even with your movement. For the next pose, we're going to be coming into Sphinx. So I really would like you to have a blanket or a towel or something that you can fold up. We'll be putting that underneath the navel center. If you don't have one, it's okay. You could also roll up the front of your mat for a little support. With this pose, we'll be using a little bit of muscle engagement, and this blanket will help to elevate and help us get into that pose a little better. So setting this up, you would take your blanket and you put it right on your mat, so it's going to come right at kind of the bottom of your navel and below. And then go ahead and lay down onto your belly. And you bring the elbows right underneath the shoulders. All 10 toenails are on the mat. And when you're ready, inhale and lift up a little bit higher. Think of bringing your shoulder blades together on your back body and opening the front of the heart. You can do that by pressing from the elbows to the fingertips and pressing a little bit into the toenails. Make sure your jaws are relaxed here. So we're using a little bit of muscle and tension only when you choose. We need to hold our body up, but that's where this blanket is helping. Whenever you feel like you need or want a little more, or need to keep the integrity of your pose, you press into your toenails. From the elbows to the fingertips, lift, think of opening the front of the heart, and the shoulder blades come together on the back body. Keep the jaws nice and relaxed. And if you like a little release here for the nervous system, you can take a cleansing breath at any time. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Nice and slow, nice and complete. You might envision the actual Sphinx. Is it a statue? It's a carving, I think. Maybe make a Sphinx face. Keep opening the front of the heart. You might recall, some of you in the 80s, the big shoulder blades, the shoulder pads in the clothing. Think of that your shoulders are big and padded and the front of your heart is nice and wide. You might feel some stress here coming into the muscles and right around the thoracic spine. It's kind of what we want here. Open things up a little bit. And this pose helps with the lungs and the kidneys. All of our organs are important, but they're especially important, especially during times of stress and dealing with COVID. We want to keep our lungs strong. The kidneys have to filter everything. Keep the integrity of your pose or come out and take a break. You can always come back in. A few more rounds of breath here. So you might think of breathing right into the kidneys, right around the low back. If you imagine the kidneys, of course, they look like kidney beans. That's where kidney beans come from. But you might also imagine some little party hats sitting on top of them, the adrenal glands. They've probably been getting a big workout lately too. Let's send our breath there. Send our intention of sending some extra healing energy and breath to the kidneys and the adrenal glands. Few more rounds of breath. Keep the integrity. Open the heart. Bring the shoulder blades together on the back body. Good. Take a breath in. Let it go. And we're going to come down into crocodile pose. So you reach for opposite elbows. You let the arms come out nice and long. Tuck the chin and rest your forehead. It might rest on your arm, it might rest on your mat or on a prop, and the legs will come as wide as your mat. If you had a blanket or a prop underneath you for Sphinx, you can keep it there. Let the body rest now. But I'd like you to tune in to your breath. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Begin to come into what we call a diaphragmatic breath. So you're inhaling deeply enough that inhale fills the lungs, sends the diaphragm down, and on the exhale, the diaphragm comes up and helps to release what's no longer needed in the lungs. So while you're in crocodile, it's a really great place to feel. You can feel as you inhale that pressing of your belly into your prop underneath you. And as you exhale, you can feel your body become a little lighter as the belly pulls back in toward the center. So really feel this diaphragmatic breath, breathing in, breathing out. If you're not feeling that pressing and release, then let your breath be a little longer and a little deeper. Going to be here for a few more rounds of this breath. Diaphragmatic breath is so important, especially now, to strengthen the lungs. Often in times of stress, we begin to breathe into our chest, and we don't want shallow breaths. We want long, complete, deep breaths to strengthen the lungs, to really move that nourishment in and move out what's not wanted, what's not needed any longer. With all of our mask wearing these days, I really encourage you when you are out in public wearing your mask, as soon as you get to a private place, take your mask off, take a few cleansing breaths, and then take some of this diaphragmatic breath, a minute, 2 minutes, just inviting all of that nourishment back into the body and getting your systems moving back on track. Really important. A few more rounds of diaphragmatic breath here in your crocodile pose. This could be a very calming breath as well, and so can crocodile. If you're living with someone, a family member, and they tend to get stressed, this might be a really nice pose for them to begin to de-stress in and come back to their breath, really engaging with this type of breath. Go ahead and release a diaphragmatic breath. And I'd like you to release your arms, and you might just come up and fold back to a child's pose, maybe for a moment or maybe for a few breaths. The big toes come together, the knees become wide, the forehead tips down. And take a few breaths here. And then when you feel ready, come up to tabletop pose. Hands and knees pose. So here we line up all the joints of the arms over the wrists, the fingers point forward, the knees are inner hip width apart, and the knees are right underneath the hips. And then turn the inside of the elbows in. And here we'll find something called marauding bear. So it's any movement that would feel good in your body. Think of a bear in the wild. And it's just moving its body instinctively, knowing what to do. There might be side flexion, there might be some cow-cat movements. Feel free to stretch one leg back and then the other. Just listen to your body and invite some movement in here. There's nothing that's not right because you're just exploring, you're observing. And our next couple poses are going to engage some deep in the hips. So I will encourage you to take some movement here with your hips, maybe some circles. And if it doesn't feel comfortable on your hands and knees, you can come into a seat and hold your foot and just move that hip joint. Something like this, or even a rock the baby. But make sure you do both sides, however it feels best to you. And finishing up, we're going to come into what's called a dragon lunge. Anyone's favorite? You might want your bolster or whatever looks like a bolster to support your body here, or not. Let me show you where we're going. We'll start with the right foot. We'll bring the right foot forward, coming into a lunge. And your left leg, I'd like you to just move that knee a little forward. I don't want you to be on the top of your kneecap. That would not be a good place to be. So move it forward a little bit. And then we're going to settle in here. So you might have a bolster, your blankets, you might bring your arms inside, more of a lizard, I guess, falling down on, like supporting yourself on your props, or you can stay here and hold. You want to keep your head in alignment with the spine, or if you're folding over a prop, then you might let your forehead be supported there. Again, relax the jaws and just invite even, calm breaths. You can always take a cleansing breath and inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth whenever you need it for a little additional calm. You want to be sending that right glute back in space. The front groin is coming a little forward here, really getting into all those muscles. All that fascia around the joint of the hip, front of the groin. Make sure you're not pressing deeply into your hands. They're just there for a little support. You want to protect the wrists. So we hold our yin poses long because it takes about 75 to 90 seconds to actually get the fascia to move and settle into its new pose. We're going to do a couple of poses here for the hips, so we won't stay, well, we'll stay almost 2 minutes. I shouldn't have told you. We'll take a few more breaths here in this lunge. And then if you're folded forward, supporting your body, come on back up to a lunge. And now I'd like you to send that right glute back, lift the toes, and come into a half split, just so we can get a nice stretching out here. Really pressing out through the sole of the foot, pulling that right hip crease back and sending your heart forward so we have this opposing energy. Good. And then come back into your lunge, and this makes a nice, easy transition into pigeon pose. So you're welcome to do pigeon on your back. If you're doing it here, you can begin to move that right foot over, setting the knee down. Lift the back leg, find some length there, and maybe move back like you're setting those front hip bones right down on the mat. You find a back bend, you really lift and puff up your chest. This is the pigeon. Do your pigeon call. And then come forward just as far as you can. And you might be doing this over a bolster or some props. Really come forward and then support your forehead. If you're noticing that one hip is up off the floor, as you're folding forward, you can tuck a prop underneath it. Make sure your body is well supported. That's important always. And then settle in here. If you're on your back, have that right ankle crossed just below the knee joint. You might keep that foot on the floor. You might lift the leg up, maybe even setting that foot on a prop. Releasing the muscles, really inviting this pose into your body, inviting your body into the pose. It should all feel like it's working together. Our dragon lunge was to stimulate the spleen, that blood exchanger organ of ours, and also the stomach. Pigeon works on the liver and the gallbladder. So those digestive organs. Letting the breath just be nice and even and slow. Is there any place else in your body you can release? Letting the body be soft and heavy. Pigeon can actually be a very calming pose if you invite that in. The mind is wandering, bring it back, call it back, give it a tool. You know what works for you, or what might work best for you. Just a few more rounds of breath here, whatever version of pigeon you're in, honoring your body. And let's begin a release. If you're on your back, you can release that leg whenever you choose. If you're on your belly, you might rock off to one side to release. You might come up to tabletop. You might even go to down dog if that's in your practice. And so we find some movement here, especially for that right hip. Again, you might do it seated, just moving that femur bone around in its socket, getting some fluid moving. It's kind of like extra credit now that you've gotten deep into the fascia. And you can take 3 of your middle fingers and find that front hip crease and just place the fingers there and jiggle back and forth, finding a little release in that fascia. Remember where we started? Dragon lunge. So we're going to, I didn't forget. So let's come into our pose for dragon lunge. You might start in tabletop. Bring the left foot forward, finding your lunge. And you might pick up the back knee and just bring it forward so you're not on the top of the kneecap. That would never be good. And again, this side of your body might feel very different, so you might have some props here. Maybe you rest your forehead on your knee or on props or fold your torso over, or you can stay in the lunge. Wherever you are, kind of guide that left glute back in space, and the front groin begins to come a little forward. Really, they're just looking to find kind of an equal place to be. So they come a little more even. But you might feel these opposing forces. You let go, again, as much intention as possible with the muscles and just be in the pose. Inviting the fascia to open. Get a little muscle opening with this pose. There's a whole series of dragon lunges. We're just going to do the one tonight, but that would be a fun practice sometime. I'll teach that sometime for you. Keep the jaws relaxed. Take that cleansing breath as needed. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Keep the jaws relaxed. When one part of the body begins to tense up, the rest likes to follow. So we bring in as much de-stress and relaxation as we can. If you've been folded over a prop, bring yourself back up to the lunge. Hands on either side of the foot. And we'll send the seat and hips back, lifting the front foot, coming into half Hanumanasana, half split. Really reaching out energetically through that left foot, reaching back into the left hip crease, sending the glute back in space. The heart is coming forward. And then if you're coming into a forward pigeon, come back to the lunge. If not, you can make your way onto your back. And then we'll bring the left foot over by the left hand. The left knee comes down by the left wrist. Again, lifting up on that back leg. Maybe scooting the hips back and think of setting those front hip bones down. Inhaling, lifting the chest. Pigeon call. Bring your body forward as far as you can. Bring the chin in and rest the forehead. If you're on your back, you might find the pose where your right foot is on the earth. The left ankle is just coming across. You might choose to bring both legs and hold them in. Or you might set that right foot on one of your props to elevate it. You could also do this at the wall, and your right foot could be at the wall. So settling into whatever version of pigeon you've made your way into. Let go, let go, let go. Soften, Soften your body, soften the muscles. Maybe here you'd like to recall your intention, if you set one, and just let that sort of marinate through your mind as you stay in your pigeon pose. Remember, pigeon is for the liver and the gallbladder, such important organs, sifting through all the food and everything we put into it. The gallbladder helping to produce gall and help that whole digestive process, that whole chemical process. Maybe you think of your organs as you're here. Make sure the jaws are released and the body is just breathing as it chooses. You might have noticed that one side of your body feels very different than the other. That makes sense. It's how we live in our bodies. We usually have one side that we prefer to use, and maybe we overwork it, and the other side gets to compensate. And what we're really always striving for, or how we really can feel good in our bodies, is to find balance. So if you practice on your own, the side that feels a little maybe tighter, a little more challenging, that side needs more attention. So stay in the pose a little bit longer on that side. Just needs a little more opening. Coming into the last few rounds of breath here in your pigeon pose. So you're welcome to release your pose. If you're on your back, you can release that crossed leg. If you're folded forward, make sure you inhale as you come up, maybe tipping off to one side or coming into table or maybe even down dog. And again, I'll invite you to find some movement for that side of your body, for that hip. It might be on hands and knees, or it might be sitting. Just moving. You want to move the femur bone and that ball and socket to get some fluids moving. It might be a rock the baby, or something else that feels good to you. Maybe finding a stretch in the leg, just finding that good place to be. And then again, taking those 3 middle fingers and coming right into that front hip crease and just finding some movement. You're moving this fast, just inviting a little more movement of the fascia. And we're going to come down onto our backs in a moment, but I'd like you to also take and make some fists, finding the flat part of your knuckles right on the low part of your back, and just move it back and forth, finding a little bit of fascial release here. Only takes about 5 to 8 of these, maybe some circles. And that's it. So mindfully make your way on to your back. Let's have the soles of the feet on the mat, the knees are up. We're going to do a couple pelvic tilts to kind of stimulate the psoas muscle. So as you begin your inhale, you kind of tilt the front of your pelvic bowl forward toward the heel. So now you find a space underneath you, a curve of the lumbar spine. As you exhale, you press your back body into the mat. No curve, everything's flush to the mat. So just find some of those. Slow and mindful movements. Your inhale creates the curve, and your exhale brings you nice and flat on your mat. A really good practice to help loosen the psoas muscle. Sometimes when we feel pain or discomfort in our low back, it can be due to either an overused or underused psoas muscle. Good. The next time your back body presses in, keep it there, but continue to breathe. Let's let the left leg come out long into the mat. On an exhale, draw your right knee into the chest, bring it in toward the armpit. And then using your left hand, let's guide that knee across the body, coming into a twist. You could even have a prop here to set your knee on, or you might choose to lengthen the leg. Set your shoulder blades down. You can do that by moving your arms. Your gaze can be up, or it might even turn toward the right. So again, just relax your jaws and welcome this supine twist. Opening up the heart center here, getting some prana, some chi to move along the spine. Breathing into this new shape. We're going to take just a few more breaths here. If your head is turned, bring it back to center. Take your right leg, bend the knee, bring it into the chest, hug it in one more time. Give a nice stretch in the low back, and then extend it out onto your mat. On your exhale, draw the right knee into the chest, maybe guiding it in toward the armpit, and then guide that knee across the body, coming into the twist on this side. Again, you might decide to lengthen your leg, or you might keep it bent. Maybe it's being supported on a prop. Set both of your shoulders down. Maybe you have something to support a shoulder if it's not on the mat. And then maybe you turn your head to the left. Find your breath here in this new shape. Supine twist. So many versions of twists that we can take. Relaxing the jaws and just letting the breath move through you. Twists are stimulating the heart meridian, the liver meridian. And let's begin our exit. So first bring your head back to center, bend your knee into the chest, come onto your back, hug it in. And then let's bring the other knee in, hug both knees into the chest. Stay on your back body, get a nice stretch for the low back. And then you can release your legs. We have a few minutes to come into a restore pose. And I'm going to invite you to do whatever feels good in your body. You might choose regular corpse pose, Shavasana. You might choose to elevate your bent knees over a bolster or blankets. Some of you might choose to bend over on your torso over your blankets, coming into a heart opener. Just a few minutes of rest. You might take a deep breath in through the nose and a slow, steady breath out the mouth, releasing, letting the body settle in. Allowing the body to be heavy, kind of feeling the mass of your body, your weight, your organs, your bones, let them go. Just enjoy a few minutes of just rest. Giving your mind that tool as needed. Those of you practicing at home might choose to stay longer and relax here and restore. That's always up to you. If you're going to end the practice with me, just in your mind's eye, begin to call back that you're in a physical space. See yourself in your mind's eye as you're resting on your mat. And then begin to lengthen, deepen your breath. Coming back to the diaphragmatic breath. Remember that healthy breath for the lungs, full breaths. Find some movement in your body that makes sense. Perhaps moving the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. Maybe a full body stretch, reaching one direction with the arms, the other with the legs. You might send the arms and legs to the ceiling and give them a little shake just to invite chi, prana to move back through. Maybe one more hug into the chest with the knees to stretch the low back. Mindfully make your way into fetal position on either side that you choose. And here, just take a moment to notice how your body is breathing. Notice the state of your mind. And notice any shifts, any changes that have occurred during your practice. Sometimes they're very obvious and sometimes they're very subtle. Just pay attention. Be an observer for another few moments. And then just let go of the practice. The practice is within you. The benefits might continue to come, but you no longer need to think about it. Take the palm of your top hand, set it down near your chest as you press in. Inhale to come up to a seat. And invite your hands to your heart, either opening into Eagle Mudra or coming into Anjali Mudra, just lifting the sternum up into your hands, feeling that connection. Just take a moment of gratitude that we have this practice, that we have this venue to bring you classes live for perennial. Thank yourself for making the effort to come and practice today. Practicing this ancient practice of Yin Yoga. Stay strong and healthy. Namaste.